This story was told by Mr. Gap, who encountered a horrifying supernatural experience during what was supposed to be a relaxing camping trip. It all began in 1999 when Mr. Gap and 5 of his classmates planned a jungle trek in the southern region of Thailand. The forest they aimed to explore was one of the largest in the south. About 30 minutes before reaching their destination, they came across a tragic accident. A local Sangteo had plunged off a cliff roughly 20 to 30 meters deep. There were only 2 rescue personnel on site. Since one of Mr. Gap's friends, named Kay, was a volunteer, the group decided to help. The scene was grim. 7 people had died, and 5 or 6 others were injured. One of the dead was a pregnant woman who had gone into labor. As they were helping to remove her body, Kay did something deeply disrespectful. He lifted the woman's skirt and mockingly pulled at the baby emerging from her body, laughing and making crude remarks. One of the rescue team members immediately scolded him and warned that pregnant women who die with their child still inside are fiercely protective. Kay gave a half-hearted apology, waving it off as a joke. After assisting the rescue efforts, the group proceeded to their campsite and set up 4 tents just as evening fell. On the first night, as they were drinking and chatting, they heard branches snapping and a childlike cry carried by the wind circling the camp, especially near Kay's tent. Gap called out to Kay, but there was no response. Disturbed, he silently apologized in his mind for any disrespect they might have caused. On the second night, Gap was awakened by a strange sobbing sound coming from Kay's tent. When he unzipped the flap and peeked in, he saw a figure curled up inside the sleeping bag, trembling. But when he shook it, it went still. As he turned to return to his own tent, he was startled to see Kay standing silently behind him. When he checked the sleeping bag again, it was flat and empty, but still showed the imprint of someone having been curled up inside.
By Sunday morning, Kay began to act strangely. He was quiet, withdrawn, and refused to go exploring with the others. That night, his body started shaking violently, and he collapsed. They thought it was a fever and helped him lie down in the tent. Not long after, they heard a woman's voice emanating from his tent. "You took my child. Now I will take you from your parents," the voice said. Terrified, they rushed to the tent, but found Kay still asleep. That night, none of them could sleep. They gathered in the largest tent and discussed what was happening. Monday morning, they packed their belongings early and waited for a boat to take them back. Kay remained silent, wouldn't eat, and often giggled as if playing with an invisible child. The boat arrived around 4:30 p.m. After reaching shore, they quickly drove out of the forest. Around 8 p.m., as they passed the curve where the accident had happened, thick fog enveloped them, a sharp contrast to the rest of the road. Suddenly, the 2 friends sitting with Kay in the back began pounding on the truck's window and shouting. When they stopped to check, both Kay and one friend had passed out. The third friend, still conscious, told them he had seen the pregnant woman floating behind the truck. He waved and screamed for help, but no one had heard him.
A few minutes later, they arrived at a village brightly lit with funeral lights. Gap asked to stop the truck to check on his friends. To their shock, it was the funeral of the pregnant woman who had died in the accident. A monk was chanting prayers. Villagers came to help move the unconscious friends. When one friend shared that he had seen the ghost of the woman, the villagers urged them to apologize to her spirit. When Mr. Gap and the group entered to pay respects, he bowed before the coffin. As he raised his head, he saw the pregnant woman standing before him, dressed in a blood-stained white maternity dress with blue flowers. He collapsed backward in terror. A senior monk approached and sprinkled holy water on the group. But when Gap led the monk to Kay in the truck, the monk only shook his head and told them that Kay should make merit while he still could, but did not bless him. After returning to Bangkok, Kay went back to his family home in the south. About 2 months later, just before the new school term began, Kay was shot dead while using a public phone. The police said it was a case of mistaken identity. Mr. Gap couldn't help but recall the voice from that night. "I will take you from your parents." He believes that the monk's warning meant Kay's fate was already sealed. This remains the most terrifying and unforgettable experience of their lives.